Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve, my co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we're going to be talking about the 2019 film Triple Frontier, currently on Netflix. And let's just mention the cast one more time because I know we've talked about it briefly in the past. But the five leads are Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund and Pedro Pascal. Cracking bunch of guys.
That is a heck of a cast, I must say, particularly for a film that's, I guess it shows how things have shifted. This would be a big, a couple of years ago, this would be a huge cast for a cinema release. So, and again, there's a couple of Star Wars links, of course. Oscar Isaac has been in the most recent ones, but also I think Pedro Pascal is in The Mandalorian, I believe.
Oh, okay.
He may even be The Mandalorian. I'm not sure, but he's in Equalizer 2, which I haven't seen yet.
Yes, I've seen him from the trailers, but he is in fact, you're correct, the Mandalorian in The Mandalorian. Yeah. There you go.
You see, that's good cast. Him and Carl Weathers. I'm in. Regardless.
Like Flynn.
Yep.
So, do you want to say what the basic story of this is before we start talking about it? Obviously, we're going to spoil this film for those who haven't seen it. You're already warned, so.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Dirty Dozen, Magnificent Seven kind of thing, of a group of people that used to work together that have then come back together. But essentially, they're all ex-special forces guys who feel like they've worked really hard for the country and haven't made much money, haven't got much to show for it. They're aware through one of them that there's a drug baron's money is available to be taken, which potentially for the authorities, but it transpires not. So it's essentially the basic premise is this group, the squad of guys get back together and then head to Brazil to relieve this drug baron of his money and to keep it for themselves.
So this film's 2 hours long, and I've got to be honest, for the first hour, I don't think I really breathed because it's so tense. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's the setup thing where... So I think the first scene is with Oscar Isaac's character. Have you noticed they've all got nicknames, right? And they're all named after fish.
I did not notice that.
Yeah, so if you look on the credits, you've got Red Fly, Pope, Ironhead, and Catfish. And young Ben doesn't have a nickname because he wasn't technically part of their squad. But I believe... Okay. Anyway. Because they kept calling him Red Fly. And I'm like, but what's his real name? And then they call him Tom, and you go, oh, okay.
This is the one film where I've got no notes relating to character names at all because they don't use them very often. I literally have got all my notes are from the actors.
Yeah. They call him Catfish a lot as well.
They do. And it's interesting because the start of it reminded me quite a lot of Hurt Locker, in like how it was filmed.
Right.
And then I realised that Catherine Bigelow was an executive producer on this movie.
Yeah, that makes sense. Big
fan of her.
The setup's really interesting. It's kind of showing you who they all are and where they all are in their current place now. And this is kind of after they've been to war, come back. Some of them have gone on to live civilian lives, and some of them, like Oscar Isaac, has now become a consultant. And his opening scene is brilliant. It's really tense. It shows you that despite him being an older, more experienced guy, he's still incredibly good at what he does. And he comes in and helps the Mexicans just take out this building and take out all these guys and capture a drug baron. But he's not happy because things still aren't right.
No, and you meet, I think it's Adria Arjona. She's in Pacific Rim Uprising and True Detective, and she's kind of his love interest, but also she's linked to the drug world through a brother, and she's kind of his inside person as well that gives him the information to be able to do what he goes on to do.
Yeah. And very early on, you see that he's not happy because he talks to Tom later on when he's trying to recruit Ben Affleck's character, and he says, I've been down there for a couple of years, I've been doing this, and nothing's changed, and it's all because of this one guy. So he feels like if this was his last, I get the feeling that he thinks that if this was his last job before he retires and does it, he wants it to mean something, because at the moment, nothing's changed.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And this is like the final thumb in the eye.
Yeah, and it's good. I like the way it sets up the pieces, because at first I was like, okay, it's going one person by one person, but actually you get quite a lot of time with Oscar Isaac's character before it becomes like an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
As you start to meet each of them. And it's interesting, like the relationship between Oscar Isaac's character and Ben Affleck's character, and what they're like on the surface, what their true nature is, how alike they are, how different they are. That's kind of in a way, I guess, the central part of the film is really those two.
Yeah. And, of course, you've got Charlie Hunnam's character, Miller, and his brother, Ben Miller, who's the kind of younger guy who's the MMA fighter now. And whereas Charlie Hunnam's character is basically now talking. That's what he does for a living. He talks to recruits and tells them not to go into the private sector. Yeah,
which is it's quite ironic, really. He's telling them not to do what Oscar Isaac's character's done, really.
Yeah.
And what he's about to do, I guess, in a roundabout kind of way. But it's good that they've all got their own kind of separate paths that they've kind of trod, but it's a little bit of a cliche, but I guess it's, none of them are as happy as they were as a band of brothers together in service, I guess.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a surprise for me. I thought it would be a case of these five guys are all top of their game still, but we're actually coming to them when they're all just a bit older. And like he says to Ben Affleck's character, how many times you get shot for your country? And what's 4? And he goes, 6. It's like, see, no one should get shot that many times and still be walking around, never mind, not be rewarded for it.
I think that they did a really clever job of making you think the film was something that it isn't from the trailer.
Yeah.
Because the biggest criticism I saw, because this film was everywhere. We talked about this before, but I saw posters, billboards, trailers everywhere I went for this film, and they were all making you feel it was like you said, really. They're kind of, and even the start of the film where they're kind of flying on the helicopter with Metallica playing, it feels like it's going to be Predator or something.
Yeah.
But it feels like, guys at the top of the game, and it's all about them going to take on this, whoever's the person whose money it is. Mm-hmm. And it really isn't that it's not that film. It's to me, it reminded me a lot of, I guess it felt like a 70s thriller, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Where it's much more about, because the obstacles they face in front of them from the actual people they're taking the money from aren't really there. Their obstacles are themselves. And it's kind of a film about greed.
Absolutely.
And about... and then it kind of turns out on its head as well at the end. So it's like, it really, it felt like a 70s film, which is in a good way, some of the great kind of 70s movies that are of this type, really.
That first hour, it is very, very tense. You don't know how they're going to get out of it. You don't know what's going on. But you get to see that despite their age, they're still really good at what they do. So Ben Affleck's character, Tom, plans everything. That's the way he operates. And they all respect him. Like, they'll say, I'll do it if he does it. And then he plans so many minutes here, so many minutes there. And they go, yeah, okay. Because he's done it so many times, it runs like clockwork. And I like the fact that when they go into Lorea's house and they start going room by room, it's all really, really smooth. Like, even when people pop up and they're not expecting it, they take them down super quick, no fuss, and just there's no one surprised. Everyone that surprises them, they're kind of expecting it, and they're covering every angle, so no one can sneak up on them and go, I noticed them are coming. So hang on, these guys have done this hundreds of times. They can work very effectively as a team, and they planned for every kind of possible outcome, and they did it. And it worked well, and they took out everybody.
And I think it's quite rare, because in most of these kind of films, our tension level rises and falls with the characters.
Yeah.
So as they're getting more and more stressed, so are we. And there is an element of that as the film progresses, and even as this sequence you're talking about progresses. But at the start, your heart is in your mouth, because you think these people are coming back, and you're really worried because we're not in on the plan, and we don't have their set of skills and knowledge. So you're worrying while they're not. And then when they start worrying, you really start worrying.
Yeah.
And it's really clever because it does set them up as being so good at their job that as soon as things start to go a little bit wrong, it is kind of like hairs on the back of the neck time, really. But I think what you said about Ben Affleck is interesting, is Ben Affleck's character, because at first I thought this is kind of a sympathy, and I think they kind of set up to be like a sympathy hire.
Yes.
It's like he's the one who's done his luck the most, his marriage has failed, his daughter's not really bothered with him, he's selling real estate, and he seems the most out of touch with their world, which I think plays into how the film goes. But then once you get to the actual, once basically they kind of talk about it and they're not, he said he's not going to do it, he's just going for the recce. And then like a day later, here's a plan.
Yeah.
And then once he's there, I don't know. My only thing I found a little bit, I wasn't sure about the shift in his character is very sudden. And I didn't 100% buy it.
Yes. We said we're going to spoil this anyway, but
yeah,
when the moment comes and he suddenly goes, no, get some more bags and more bags. I was like, hang on. And one of the characters, Ben Miller, played by Garrett Hedlund, he says to him, Tom, you never do this. In all the number of jobs I've done with you, you never do this. And he kind of explains it away. Yeah.
And I've been trying to unpack it since, and part of me was like, well, is it because it's been so long that although he is very meticulous, he's a bit kind of sloppy now? But then he says, I've built in a contingency time. And then you think, oh, actually, that's really clever. But then he lets that pass as well.
Yes.
And I think maybe he's the person who's got nothing. So the others they can take the money and they can go back and do something else. Or they've got people or something, or each other. Because everyone else, I think, is either in a relationship or has got a brother or there's something. Whereas he just seems to be very, even though he has got his daughter live with him, he seems very alone. And it felt like it needed to build up to this, but I don't know how else you could do it, really. But he is, of all the characters there, he's the last one you would expect to say, no, just keep getting more and more money.
Yeah.
And then he just gets worse and worse and worse, really, as things progress.
It's that moment where they keep finding extra walls, and he's going, find more bags, find suitcases. And I'm going, hang on, this is crazy. And the thing where it falls apart, and they said they're going to take, I don't know, what was it, 20 million each or something. And then that's it. And you go, okay, so they must have cut. And then the guy set up the chopper, and they know how much 20 million each weighs. But then they completely go pear-shaped. And I'm going, hang on. You suddenly got 50 bags full of money. You must know that can't get onto the chopper. And they keep piling them on. And then they got on the chopper and it's going, yeah, it's too heavy. At that point, you'd be like, okay, before we were going to have 20 million each. Now we've got 100 million each, but we can't actually leave. You just chuck out half of it and go, right, great, now we go.
The obstinance is bizarre.
Yeah.
Because even, to be honest, it's a film where so you sit and do the maths, and these are the bits that kind of trouble you, because when Oscar Isaac's character sets this up for everyone, he's basically like, oh, we're doing this for the authorities, but our contractor's fee is 25% of the 75 million we go and get. And you think, oh, okay, that's a lot. That's a life-changing amount of money. But he goes, but actually, there is no authorities. We're getting it all. And you think, so it's gone from 25%, which they were happy with, to all of that, 75 million. And then by the time that they are literally overloading the helicopter, it's 250 million.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Ben Affleck's character doesn't do enough to me to convince everyone else, unless it's just he's kind of in charge. It's weird, they kind of chop and change, because at times he annoyed the hell out of me because of this stuff. But then you kind of warm to him again a little bit. Then Oscar Isaac's character would go back that way a little bit and but maybe that's just the nature of greed. Maybe that's what the message is kind of like, depending on the circumstances, everyone's got the potential to be this short-sighted. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just that. And when you think, okay, they've made a mistake, they'll get past it, and then they do the same or something worse again. And that bit where they crash the helicopter, and then his character just snaps. And Oscar Isaac is Pope's trying to talk them down and talk the situation down, and Tom just completely loses it and snaps again. And it's just goes from bad to worse. They've lost the chopper, and they're still trying to take all the money with them. And I'm going, hang on, how are you going to try and carry it? And there's that ridiculous bit where they're dragging 10 bags at a time, and then they go back for the next on the ice, and they go back for another 10 bags. I'm going, come on. You'd be so slow, you couldn't possibly just keep going. You'd just take what you could carry. And that's what they do in the end.
Yeah, it was very exciting to see them riding donkeys up a very narrow side of a crevasse, and then the donkey, as you all predicted, falling.
Poor donkey.
CGI donkey, it was sad. Yeah. It was, but it's very sad CGI donkey.
CGI donkey.
But you just it's I don't know. There was a version of this where they could have had 25% of this money and just literally got a plane home.
Yep. Because they burnt the rest.
Yeah. So it's like I flip flopped on it a lot, and when we get to the end, it'll be more apparent. But it's because I was like, I'm really enjoying this. It's ridiculously tense. One note I put here: there's no real threat, but it's still. Yeah, it is still edge of the seat stuff, because you're just watching these people kind of not quite. Well, it's a bit Lord of the Flies kind of turn on each other, but a lot of it is just turning on themselves and just kind of making ridiculous decisions. But then sometimes you've just got somebody would stop this happening, and whether it is just like the chain of command thing, and because Affleck his character was kind of the planner, but I don't know. I didn't think they acknowledged his role enough until very late on, that I essentially would put all the mistakes down to his character alone, whereas it felt like they were kind of painting it more as, they've all kind of collectively made these mistakes. But he does get his comeuppance, but he's the reason they stayed in the house too long.
Yep. He's
the reason that the helicopter crashed. He's the reason that the people die when they land. It's like, pretty much every mistake is down to him. But then you also think, I suppose, on another level, they probably couldn't have got the money at all without his plan. Yeah. So it's a weird one.
So I'm not going to... I know I'm not doing scores yet, but I'm going to say this now. No. I'm not going to put the score down because the film wasn't what I expected it to be, because in the second half it becomes completely not what I thought it was after that first hour. But the tension, as you say, completely changes from a first hour of me not being able to breathe, all this excitement and the tense moments where they're sneaking through the house and all of that, and it's really, really good. And then the second half is completely different. In the version in my head is they get the money, they get out, they've set fire to the house, they've killed the rear, and you think it's all over, and they're only an hour in and they get home. But then someone somehow finds a link and comes after them, and then they're fighting at home whilst trying to save their family or whatever. I mean, maybe that film has been done. Maybe that's why they didn't want to go in that direction. Maybe that was never the film that they were going to do. And so this is what it was actually about. It's about greed and not about...
Yeah, I think I read something that the director, J.C. Chandler, the director, also co-wrote the film. Most of his films seem to be like allegories for like capitalism is bad, which I guess is tied into greed. So maybe that's why. But yeah, I know what you mean. That's the film I thought it would be as well. And you kept getting the sense of, it won't just be Luria coming after you, because it's actually 4 times the money every drug baron that ever existed.
So it's someone else's money as well,
yeah. But it's quite clever. It's almost like the military precision means they can get away with this. If it wasn't, you almost think if they'd taken the correct amount of money, they'd probably be all sitting having Long Island iced tea somewhere.
Yeah. So I don't want to say it's a weird film. It's a different film, that's for sure. And it does become... So it goes from something that's very big and explosive from the very first scene with Pope to something that's very, very small and just about these 5 characters trying to get along with each other, exposing what they like and what they don't like about each other. I mean, even the brothers at one point start fighting.
Yeah.
And Charlie Hunnam's character, before he gets shot and things, he's fighting with his brother, who's always like, he was supporting him at the beginning, but he obviously wasn't happy because he was doing those talks and he was bored out of his mind. But you think their friendship, their relationship is solid, and it's not. So they're all
and I guess it's that thing though. In the more tense the situation, the more the closest people to you are the people that you fall out with.
Yeah.
Because, it's that whole kind of love and hate being on a circle or whatever. It's, I suppose it's so that's why, and they're probably because their brothers are very alike. It's really weird. At times when they were sitting talking on the kind of mountainside, it reminded me of Saving Private Ryan in the church.
Yeah.
It just had that kind of, gung-ho kind of brave people on the surface who actually, when you strip them back and they're talking to each other, are just like anybody else. And I think maybe this is part of the reason they got such a good cast, because when it was announced, I was like, this feels like a full-on action movie, like maybe Expendables without the jokes,
Yeah.
With this cast, you think, oh, okay, but then you watch it and you go, okay, this is an action-led drama in a way.
Yes.
And maybe that's why they've managed to get such acting talent together.
I don't know. I kind of would like to see if the five of them had done a straight kind of action film. Like when they said to me, when I heard that Quentin Tarantino was doing a World War II sort of Dirty Dozen type film, that sounded amazing to me, like really, really good. And then what we got was so horrific, and the trailers now seem put me off. And people have told me about it. I'm so glad I didn't watch it. Whereas if
I really like that.
I mean, like when people saying he might be doing a Star Trek film, and my first thought is amazing, and my second thought is no, because he'll do what he always does, and invariably I'm 50-50 with his films.
Yeah.
So this was, I'm not going to mark it down because of it wasn't what I expected, but I was still a little bit disappointed.
Okay.
By the second half, anyway.
Yeah. I like the fact it takes a lot to kind of, we talk about movies, we write ourselves, we kind of, we're in that generation that's kind of meticulously looking for the narrative kind of threads. So it was quite this, and kind of, I know you haven't seen it yet, but Avengers Endgame are the two things that I've seen most recently that kind of did a little swerve on me,
right.
Sent me in one direction and then actually went somewhere else. And with both of them, I went, oh, what? And then went, oh, okay, you're surprising me. I like that, because I'm not sitting here picking apart and already working out what the next, part is going to be. I'm just actually, like most people in the audience, just letting the story come at me, which I liked. Yeah, but I know what you mean. It's such a big action start to it, and then it is more kind of survival. Yeah, men on a mountain kind of thing by the end.
I think the main problem I have with the second half isn't that it changed so much. It wasn't what I expected. It's the fact that the threat doesn't have anything to do with anything from the first half. So as we said, nobody else comes after them. Nobody, or if they are, we never see them. And the people who actually are responsible for killing Tom and injuring Charlie Hunnam's character and all of that is because of something they've done later on. And it's nothing to do with Laria, the other drug lords, the money, the family, the house that they've been... Not all of that basically is gone. The only connection is they're now dragging these bags of money, and that's just a weight, basically, and it's now just a symbol of their greed. It has nothing to do with... So it feels like very much like a film of two halves, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I guess they do. Some of the drug barons people do kind of come after them right at the very end, but it's like it's only because they've got to a port and they've got there late.
Yeah.
And they're kind of easier to pick off. But I know what you mean. But I guess. Well, I suppose they are the antagonists and the protagonists in a way, and it's they are the threat to themselves, which is, again, it's very 70s, that kind of, it's the people that are doing the acts, not the, I guess, and that's what kind of takes it away from, I guess, conventional kind of, setup and payoff. I guess the setup in a way was more the relationship between them, and I think the ending does kind of bring that to a close.
Yes,
but I'm trying to pick the ending apart because I'm in two minds as to quite what happened.
Do you want to talk about that ending then? What?
Yeah, because so they do make it, but apart from one of them dies, which we mentioned, which is Tom Ben Affleck's character, which is the person who probably should have died because he was the problem, really, and he got killed by someone who he killed a family when they landed, totally unprovoked, really, and the son came and found him and shot him and shot not just him, but it was him that he was going for.
Yes.
So they end up in the lawyer's office, as you do after a big heist.
Yeah.
And they're signing contracts because basically the idea is to basically kind of, I guess, launder the money by, putting it through as a salary for each of them for the rest of their lives, rather than just sticking a couple $100 million in the bank. Not that they got away with that much anyway, because they have thrown a lot of it down a crevasse. So they do the signing, and then I think one of them says, my share can go to Tom's family, and then they all agree to do that.
Yeah,
and you think, oh, okay. So part of me was like, well, okay, are they as angry with Tom as I was, or is this actually in Tom's honor, or are they saying it wasn't worth the struggle, or are they saying actually getting back together as a group was more important than the money? I was kind of trying, and maybe it's all those things. What was your take on it?
I think, as you said, Tom needed it the most. The others don't have perfect lives, and they're not happy with where their lives are. But Tom probably had the shortest stick, I think, with the way that he's divorced from his wife. He doesn't live with his daughter. He only gets to see her on weekends. He's been shot lots of times, and he's failing at his job selling, houses. So I think they gave the money to him to look after his family because he needed it. And if their roles had been reversed, they would have done the same. I think they forgave Tom for his greed, and for what happened. And I almost have the feeling that Charlie Hunnam wouldn't have handed that thing to Pope if they all hadn't given the money to Tom.
Yeah. Oh, you think he'd have just gone for it himself?
No, I think he would have just destroyed it. Because I think at that point, Charlie Hunnam's character was just like, it wasn't worth it. Because he's the first one that signs it over to Tom's family. Yeah, he's like, nah. He says, because, he's got back and his brother survived and he got shot and he still survived. I think they went through all of this and it proved to him it wasn't worth it. He's done his time. He doesn't need to do it anymore. And it's not for him anymore. It's just
I suppose it ties in with what he's been doing, where he's been going around telling people not to take the money, the private sector jobs. But I don't know, because part of me, at first I thought, okay, he's doing this magnanimous gesture. And then I thought, well, or is he doing this magnanimous gesture in order that they get their share, but he goes back and gets that money on his own? No,
I think he's preaching to these recruits saying, don't be swayed by the money to go into the private sector because it's not worth it. And he says, if you fight with the flag on your shoulder, you're fighting for a cause. You've got your brothers and sisters, and you're a team, and you're a family. And that's what the film, as he said, the book there. That's what the film is all about as well. It's about family. It's about that's more important than the money, and it's more important than anything else.
But I guess maybe part of that same thread, though, is the other way of looking at it is he gave his money knowing that the others would follow suit, and actually just wanted to go back and do something with them again, because it is that group of people that are keeping each other going.
I think it's
because at the end, I know it's only the two of them, but I don't know. It felt a bit like, well, actually, they're all going to go back.
I don't think he wants it. I think he told Pope so Pope could do something with it and do something good with it. Like he says, maybe go and see that girl down in Australia or stuff.
Yeah, he does say it to him. And actually, Pope is the one who kind of started the job in the first place. It's interesting because Pope and kind of Ben Affleck's character kind of switch places in a way, because at first it's Oscar Isaac really driving it and you think, oh, what, you're dodgy compared to everyone else. But then they kind of flip, but then it kind of flips back round again, I suppose. Yeah, it's interesting. It's but again, that was what reminds me of a 70s film, is where at the end you're not quite sure. There's shades of kind of, different levels of good and bad, and you kind of come away from it going, well, I'm not really sure what I thought about anybody.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing. It's something that probably is missing from a lot of modern films.
Yeah, they paint people very clear, black hat and white hat in a lot of films these days. Whereas all of these characters are completely grey because they've killed a whole bunch of people. Some of them were criminals, some of them were not, but all in the name of greed. And it wasn't worth it. They lost one of their friends in the process, and it's, cost them dearly. So it really wasn't worth it at all.
And I was about to say, it's not like a modern film because they don't, have to save a cat, that kind of screenwriting thing. But they did mourn a donkey, so I guess that's not that different.
Enough with the yakety yak. What is your score?
Are we ready to give it some scores?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
I don't mind.
Okay, Pete, you go.
Okay. So, as we said, the trailer and the marketing set up a kind of gung-ho, balls to the wall, is that even a phrase, film. In reality, it's not that. It's more about human nature. And the aftermath of the heist, as you say, is probably quite different than people would expect.
Yeah.
It's an excellent cast. I thought all the performances were kind of pitch perfect. Although I really disliked Tom, it was because I was meant to really dislike Tom. I had a couple of issues with the characterization, like I mentioned earlier, that I thought the shift in him just felt really... I still can't get my head around him going from being meticulous planning man and not really wanting to do it to fill the bags with all the money. And by the way, I don't care if the helicopter crashes, almost. That was the one thing that kind of got in the way a little bit. It's not exactly action-packed in the second half, like you said. It is more like a drama. But I thought it was really good. I thought it was a brave piece of filmmaking because it was so different. And I liked being surprised, really. I'll be interested to see what else this director does. Now, I'm struggling with the bags because I can't do half bags, and I would. This is a bang on a half bagger for me, but I'm not allowed. I'll be banished from the show forever. But I don't think, with good conscience, I can quite give it 4 bags compared to other films we have. So I'm going to give it a 3 bags, but secretly a 3.5.
No. It's 3 or
secretly,
not.
I said secretly. It's a 3. I'm giving it a 3, but I'm saying secretly.
But then you're telling us all.
It's not going on the official documents.
Right,
the documents will state 3.
Stamp as 3.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Now we need to get like a rubber stamp thing with a dial that goes from 1 to 5. Okay, so my score. The trailer is slightly deceptive in some ways, I think, given that the second half of the film is not what is displayed in the trailers. I think that's the thing. This is the one time a modern trailer doesn't give away what the film is really about. They're really good these days with showing you most of the film in the trailer, and you go, oh yeah, okay. So it's the clever people that don't do that. So a bit of bait and switch. I think the cast were all brilliant. I know they all trained a lot for this and did a lot of hard work with some people who were actual special forces on, how to move, how to do this, how to carry the weapons. It's just like when we see Keanu Reeves training for John Wick, he really goes for it. And I think they did too. And I think it paid off. They were convincing in those roles. I believe they were those characters and they had those skills. Sometimes you just see an actor and you go, yeah, I'm not buying it. But I did with all of them, which was good. It surprised me. I was trying to turn off the writer part of my brain and just watch the film, but it kept flicking on at moments where I was thinking, all right, I'm not exactly bored, but this is dragging a bit in some places, especially after that first hour where it's so tight and so just tense, and I'm constantly, gasping as things happen on screen. Yeah, some inconsistencies with Ben Affleck's character. The others are pretty grey throughout. But I did like it. It kept me engaged the whole thing. I mean, we've seen some films in the past where I've said, I've got a bit bored, and I glanced at my phone, and that's something I never, ever do when I'm watching TV or a film. I really put the phone across the room almost. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I think I did it with Passenger 57, I think I said last time. Anyway, with this I didn't, so it kept me engaged. But compared to some of the 4-bagger films that we've done, I'm like you, I can't do that. So I'm going to have to give it a solid, very solid, no halves, solid 3 bags out of 5. But it's definitely worth watching, that's for sure. The interesting thing is, it's been really well received by audiences. It's done incredibly well for Netflix. And apparently female viewers have really enjoyed the film too.
Oh.
Perhaps because they sit down to watch it with someone thinking it's one thing, and they find out it's actually more of a drama and about people than just explosions and shooting.
In fairness, I put it on and my wife said she was tired and was going to go to bed, and then she ended up watching it all.
So there you go.
Which also happened, I think, with Sicario, which is a kind of similar-ish film.
So you came for the action and she stayed for the drama.
Maybe, or maybe the other way around. Who knows?
Come on, we do bags of action, Pete. It's not bags of drama.
That's true. What I do on my other podcast is my business. It's all half bags on there. Half bags only.
Ooh, shameful. Shame. Anyway, right. Have you seen Trouble Frontier? What did you think? Come on to the Facebook group. Join us there. Let us know what you think. Email us, bagsofaction@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're on there. Hey, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, as Pete says. Never. Yeah. So, okay, Pete, wrap us up.
Thank you for listening, if indeed you still are. Or unless you've fallen off the crevasse with Ben Affleck's donkey.
Good night.
Good night.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.